Hi, it's Alexis Hasselberger, time management and productivity coach. Let's talk about notifications. You know, the pings, the dings, the lights flashing, the little red circles, all of the notifications that we have for all the different technologies and the apps that we use. Now, why do I want to talk about this? Well, I am willing to bet that notifications are maybe not your favorite thing, right? They're constantly pinging and dinging, distracting you all the time. When I lead workshops for companies, I often ask, like, what's your biggest distraction? Number one answer, Slack, right? Those pings and dings are just coming constantly. Now, notifications are not all bad. They're not all good either, of course. They are like any man-made tool, somewhere in the middle. We can use them for good or we can use them for evil. And so today what I want to talk about is all the different types of common notifications and ways that you can use those more intentionally so that they're actually supporting your priorities instead of detracting from them. And that's kind of the key, is notifications can be really good when they are helping you to meet your own priorities and goals, and they can be really bad when they are tearing you away from those things. When we're not using notifications intentionally, it's quite often the latter, that they are pulling us away from things that we want to be doing, that we should be doing, that we should be focusing on, et cetera. And so let's just talk about how we can get a little more intentional about this. Now, first, let's talk email. I am going to go with a bold statement here. I don't think you need email notifications, like at all. Not on your phone, not on your computer. Why? Because nobody relies on email in an emergency, right? Like nobody's going to leave you in that burning building because you didn't check your email. And the reality is that when we turn off the notifications for email, when we're not getting a notification every single time we get an email, that actually enables us to be more responsive to email because we can be in there batch processing it. We can be processing email a few times a day, maybe even every hour if we absolutely have to for our job. But we're going to be actually processing it instead of just kind of checking every time something comes along. Those notifications, like every time you get a little ding or a ping, studies show that it takes us on average 23 minutes to refocus after an interruption like that. And so that's why these are really important to think about, because is every single notification that goes off worth 23 minutes of your time? I don't think so, right? So email notifications, I'm pretty sure you could just turn them off. Now, let's move on to another type of work communication, like Slack, Microsoft Teams, these types of chats that are, more in the moment than email is. They typically have a response time that needs to be a little bit quicker than something over email. But I think we really want to think carefully about notifications for these types of communication tools as well. So if you can get away with it, go ahead and turn off all those notifications for Slack. Process it several times a day to make sure you're not missing things and to make sure that you are being as timely as you need to. But instead of you just getting a message every single time and going to look at it, you can then be a little bit more intentional so that you're not getting yourself unfocused from what you're doing. You can still be responsive. Now, maybe it doesn't work for you to not have any notifications on for Slack, but maybe you could reduce them, right? Maybe you don't need those notifications for every single channel, maybe only for app messages or DMs, et cetera. So really think mindfully about that one. Now we have calendar notifications, meeting notifications. Now these are actually super important. These are some of the more useful notifications that we have. Why? Because in a hybrid world where we are not, most of us, in the office anymore, all the time anyways, the calendar notification is what is going to help you be on time for your meetings, right? You're not getting that visual cue anymore of your coworkers standing up and walking into a conference room. Instead, you are relying on yourself, right? And so calendar notifications can be really helpful. But here's the thing, most calendar notifications are set up to be like 10 minutes, 15 minutes in advance. And that's too long because that gives us enough time to say, oh yes, the meeting is coming, and then to start something else. And then we get into that and we end up being late for the meeting anyways. What you can do is to change your default meeting notification in your calendar to like 2 minutes or 3 minutes before the meeting. This is enough time for you to wrap up what you're doing, but not enough time to start something new and then forget about the meeting. Now, let's talk about maybe some types of notifications that you're using in other circumstances, not necessarily for work. So let's talk about text, WhatsApp, Signal, like all those different, Messenger, all those different chat apps that we use. So for these ones, I'm going to recommend that you do keep those notifications on for when you get a message from someone, but that maybe you turn the sound off, right? So maybe you even turn it off vibrate so it's silent. Now, if you are visually impaired, this is not likely going to work for you, right? But if you're not, then maybe thinking about not having that sound on would be a way for you to be less interrupted by those types of chats. Now, whatever types of things do we have? We have social media, right? And I'm also going to say this goes the way of email. We don't need any notifications on for social media. You do not need to get pinged or dinged when someone has commented on your photo. You don't need to get pinged or dinged because you have a certain number of likes on a post. Like, you don't need to get pinged or dinged because somebody you follow has had a new post that's come out. Like, this is stuff that you want to do on your own time, according to when according to when you want to, right? Not just because this has happened in one of these platforms. So I'm going to suggest just like go ahead and turn all of the social media, the games, turn those notifications off so that they're not unintentionally pulling you in. I mean, they're being intentional about it, but you don't want to be unintentionally pulled in, right? And then finally, we have another form that's kind of notification-esque, right? And these are timers, reminders, things that you did intentionally set up for a reason. And I think these are actually really useful. You use them intentionally. They're for things like, that 10-minute timer that tells you to take the, whatever you got on the stove off the stove so it doesn't burn, or to take the bread out of the oven. Or I have an alarm that goes off at 7:55 every day that says, get in the car, so that I get my kids into the car and that we're not going to be late from school. These types of things where you have to do something at a specific time and you actually want to be wrenched out of whatever that it is that you're doing. Otherwise, bad things will happen. These are really valuable notifications, right? So you do want to use those timers, reminders, things like that, where you have to be doing something at a specific time. That is very helpful, very similar to a calendar notification. All right, so I think I've walked us through, all of the major types of notifications there and what you might be thinking about doing. If you have a different category of notification I didn't bring up, please put that into the chat. I would love to weigh in on that as well. And if you're feeling like it is necessary for me to have all of these notifications, like what will happen? Will bad things happen? Will I miss things? Then, take it a little bit slow. Or if you're worried about what other people might think, if you, instead of answering a Slack within 30 seconds, you start answering it within 30 minutes, well, you might use your Slack away message or status message, or, to say, hey, heads down. But if you need me urgently, please give me a call or please text me. So you can use the tools around you to help explicitly communicate what you're doing, or you might need to have conversations with other people just to let them know what's going on. But give it a try. One thing that I can say is that for the vast majority of my clients, once they turn notifications on, they don't want to turn them back on, right? They realize that this has been really, it's just really, really disruptive to have all of these notifications all the time. So experiment with your notifications. Ask yourself, is this helping me? Is it taking me closer to my goals or priorities? Or is this notification harming me? It's pulling me away from my goals and my priorities. And that will help you answer the question of what to do with all those notifications.
Hello, it's the video editor here, reminding you to like and subscribe. Bye.